Hello everyone, my name's Stonesy Boy and welcome back to Reading with Stonesy. Today we are reading pages 65 to 81, chapters 11 to 13 of The Island of the Blue Dolphins. Last time she tried to go out of the island of the Blue Dolphins, but was quickly swifted back onto the island. She tried to follow the green star and all of that. But now she's back on the island. Her brother is dead. Her village has abandoned her, and her father is dead. So, this is real character development here. How she's going to use it, I don't know. Today, we are going to be reading only 16 pages, if my math is pretty good. And my math is pretty good! And we are reading only 2 chapters. So, it's going to be cut up a little bit, but, So, without further ado, let's begin. Chapter 11. I was awakened by the waves dragging my feet. Night had come. But being too tired to leave the sandpit, I crawled to a higher place where I would be safe from the tide and again went to sleep. In the morning, I found the canoe a short distance away. I took the baskets, my spear, and the bow and arrows, and turned the canoe over the tides, could not take it out into the sea. I then climbed to the headland where I lived before. I felt as if I had gone a long time as I stood there looking down from the high rock. I was happy to be home. Everything that I saw, the otter playing in the kelp, the rings of foam around the rocks and guard the harbor, the gulls flying, the tides moving past the sandpit, filled me with happiness. I was surprised that I felt this way, for it was the only short time ago that I had stood on the same rock and felt that I could not bear to live here another day. I looked at the blue water, stretching away all the fear. I had nothing to fear during the time of the voyage came back to me. On the morning I first sighted the island, and it had come with a great fish stunning itself. It thought that someday it would make a canoe over and go out once more to look at the country that lay beyond the ocean. No, now I knew that I would never go again. And the island of the Blue Dolphins was my home. I had no other. It would be my home until the white men returned to their ship. But even if they came soon, before next summer, I would not live without a roof or a place to store my food. I would have to build a house, but where? The night I slept on the rock. The next day I began the search. The morning was clear and the north banks where the clouds hung low. Before long they would move in across the island. Behind them, many other storms were waiting. I had no time to waste. I needed a place that was sheltered from the wind, not too far from Coral Cove and too close to the good spring. There was no 2 such places on the island. One of the headland was other less than the league in the west. The headland seemed to be much more favorable of the two, but since I had not been on the other side for a long time, I decided to go there and make certain. The first thing I found, which I had forgotten, was that this place was near Wild Dog's lair. As soon as I drew near to the leader, came to the opening of the cave and watched me with his yellow eyes. If I built a hut here, I would have to kill them in his pack. I planned to do anyway, but it would take much time. The spring was better than the one near the headland, being less brackish and having steadier flow of water. Besides, it was much easier to reach since it came to the side of the hill and not in the ravine as the other one did. It was also close to the cliff and the ridge and the rocks, which would shelter my house. The rocks were not so high as those in the headland, therefore would give me less protection from the wind, yet they were high enough and from them I could see the north coast and the coral cave. The thing that made me decide on a place to build my house and was the sea elephants. The cliffs fell away easily, and the wide shelf that was partly covered when the tide came in. It was a good place for sea elephants because they would crawl halfway up the cliff if the day was stormy. On fair days they would fish among the pools or lie on the rocks. The bull is very large and often weighs as much as 30 men. The cows are much smaller, which they make more noise than the bull, screaming and barking through the whole day and sometimes at night. The babies were noisy too. In the morning the tide was low and most of the animals were far out, just hundreds of specks against the waves, yet the noise was deafening. I stayed there the rest of the day, looking around at night. At dawn was the clantor started again. I left and went back to the headland. There was another place in the south where I'd have to build my house, near the destroyed village of Gallows Hat, but I did not want to go there because it would remind me of the people who were gone. Also, the wind blew strong in this place, blowing against the dunes which cover the middle of the part of the island that most of the time sand is moving everywhere. Rain fell at night and lasted for 2 days. I made a shelter of brush in a foot of the rock, which kept some of the water. I ate food I had stored in a basket. I could not build a fire because of the rain and it was very cold. On the 3rd day, the rain ceased and I went out to look for things which I needed building in the house. I likewise needed poles for a fence. I would soon kill wild dogs, but there were too many small red foxes on the island. They were so numerous I had never hoped to get rid of them, either by traps or with arrows. They were clever thieves, and nothing I stored would be safe until I built a fence. The morning was fresh and from the rain. The smell of the tide pools was strong. Sweet odors came from the wild grass of the ravines and the sand plants in the dunes. I sang as I went on the trail and the beach and along the beach of the sandpit. I felt the day was an omen of good fortune. If it was a good day to begin my new home. Chapter 12. Many years before, 2 whales had washed up on the sandpit. Most of the bones had been taken away for the ornaments, but ribs were still there, half buried in the sand. These I used in making a fence. One by one, I dug them up and carried them to the headland. They were long and curved, and I scooped out their holes and set them in the earth. They stood taller than I did. I put the ribs together, and the edges almost touching, and curved outward, which made them impossible to climb. Between them, I wove my strands of bull kelp, which shrinks as it dries and pulls very tight. I would have used seal sinew to bind the ribs together, for this is stronger than kelp, but the wild animals like it and soon would have gnawed the fence down. Much time went into this building, and it would have been taking me longer, except for the rock one made one end of the fence and part of the side. For a place to go in or out, I dug a hole under the fence, just wide and deep enough to crawl through. The bottom and sides lined the stones. On the outside, I covered a hole in the mat woven of brush and shed the rain, and on the inside of the flat rock, which I strung enough to move, I was able to take 8 steps between the sides of the fence, which gave me a full room. I would need to store the things I had gathered and wished to protect. I built a fence first because it was too cold to sleep on a rock, and I did not like to sleep in the shelter I had made until I was safe from the wild dogs. The house looked stronger in build than the fence. It was because of the rain many days, and because the wood which I needed was scarce. There's a legend among our people that the island had once been covered in tall trees. It was a long time ago, at the beginning of the world, when Tuma Yowit and Mukat ruled. The 2 gods quarreled about many things. Tuma Yowit wished people to die. Mukat did not. Tuma Yowit angrily went to another world under this world, taking his belongings with him, so people died because he did. In the same time were tall trees, but now were only a few in the ravines, and these were small and crooked. It was very hard to find that one would make a good pole. I searched many days, and going out early in the morning, coming back at night, before I found enough for the house. I used the rock at the back of the house in the front and left open, since the wind did not blow from this direction. The poles I made equal length, using fire to cut them, as well as a stone knife, which caused me much difficulty because I never made such a tool before. There were 4 poles on each side, set in the earth, and twice that many for the roof. These I bound together with sinew and covered with female kelp, which was broad leaves. The winter was half over before I finished the house, but I slept there every night and felt secure because of the strong fence. The foxes came when I was cooking my food and stood outside, gazing through the cracks, and the wild dogs also came, gnawing at the whale ribs, growling because they could not get in. I shot 2 of them, but not the leader. While I was building the fence in the house, I ate shellfish and perch, which I cooked on a flat rock. Afterwards, I made 2 utensils. Along the shore, there were stones that the sea had worn smooth. Most of them were round, but I found 2 in the hollow place in the center, which I deepened and broadened by rubbing them with sand. Using these to cook in, I saved the juices of the fish, which were good and were wasted before. For cooking seeds and roots, I wove tied baskets of fine reeds, which was easy because I had learned how to do it from my sister Ulape. After a basket I had dried in the sun, I gathered lumps of pitch on the shore, softened them over the fire, and rubbed them in the inside of the basket so that I could hold water. By heating small stones and dropping them in a mixture of water and seeds in the basket, I could make gruel. I made a place of fire on the floor of my house, hollowing it out and then lining it with rocks. In the village, guys had made a few fires every night. But now I made 1 fire, which I covered with ashes, and went to bed. The next night, I would remove the ashes and blow in the embers. In this way, I've saved myself much work. There were many gray mice on the island now, and I had food to keep from one meal to another. I needed a safe place to put it. On the face of the rock, which was back wall of the house, were several cracks as high as my shoulder. These I cut out and smoothed to make shelves where I could store my food and mice could not reach it. By the time winter was over and grass began to show green on the hills, my house was comfortable. It was shelter from the wind and rain and prowling animals. I could cook anything I wished to eat. Anything I wanted is there at hand. It was now time to make plans to get rid of the wild dogs which had killed my brother and would kill me should they ever come upon me unarmed. I need another and a heavier spear, also a larger bow and sharper arrows. To collect the material for these weapons, I searched the whole island, making the sons to do it. These left only the nights to work on them. But since I do not see well in the dim fire used for cooking, I made lamps and dried bottles of little fish that we call sai-sai. The sai-sai is a color of silver, which not bigger than my finger. On nights when the moon shines full, these little fish come swimming out of the sea in schools. It's so thick that you can almost walk on them. They come in the waves and twist and turn in the sand. They were dancing. I caught many basketfuls of sai-sai and put them out in the sun, hung up in their tails from the poles on the roof, which they made much odor, but burned in a very clear light. I made the bow and arrows first, was pleased when I tried them, and I shoot farther and much straighter than I had before. The spear I had left last. I wondered as I smoothed and shaped the long handle and fin of the stone collar around both ends to give the spear weight and could hold the spear point if I could make this point the way the men of our tribe did, in the tooth of the sea elephant. Many nights I thought about it, wondering if I could possibly kill one of the great beasts. I could not use a net of kelp, because this needed the strength of several men, nor could I remember what a bull elephant had ever killed with an arrow or with a spear. Only after they had been caught in the net they were killed, and then with a club. They killed many cows for their oil using spears, but the teeth were not large. How I would do this, I did not know. Yet the more I thought about it, the greater my determination to try. For there was nothing to be found on the island that made much a good spear points with the tusk-like teeth in the bull sea elephant. Chapter 13. I did not sleep much of the night before I went to place with the sea elephants. I thought again of the law that forbade women to make weapons. I wondered if my arrows would go straight, and if they did, would they pierce the animals tough to hide? What if one of the bulls turned on me? What if I was injured and then I'd fight the wild dogs as I dragged myself homeward? I thought about these things most of the night, but with the sun I was up and on my way in the place where the sea elephants lived. When I reached the cliff, the animals who had left the reef and gathered along the shore like great boulders and bulls sat on a pebbly slope. Below them were the crows where babies played in the waves. Perhaps it was not right to speak of the young elephants as babies, for they are large as a man, but they are still babies. In many ways, they follow their mothers around, wandering around with their flippers like children learning to walk, making crying sounds and sounds of pleasure that only young make. And before they will leave the shore and learn to swim, their mothers have pushed them into the sea, which is often difficult to do because of their size. Some distance separated the bulls from each other, for they had bad-tempered, very jealousy by nature, and quick to fight over anything that displeases them. There were 6 of them below me on the slope, each sitting alone in the great chief, watching the herd of cows and babies. The cow was a smooth body and a face that looks much like that of a mouse, with a sharp pointed nose and a whiskers. The bull was different. His nose was a large hump on it which hangs out over his mouth. His skin was rough and looked wet earth, and it dried in the sun and cracked. He was an ugly animal. From the top of the cliff I looked down at each of the sea elephants and tried to choose the smallest of the 6. They were all the same size, save one, which was far thence from me and partially hidden by the rock. He was about half as large as the others, a young bull. Since no cows were playing among the waves in front of him, I knew he did not have a herd of his own, and for that reason would not be so wary or quickly angered. Quietly I left myself down over the edge of the cliff to reach him, and I passed behind the others, being careful not to alarm them. They feared nothing and would not move if they saw me, but it was better. I thought not to put them on their guard. I carried my new bow, which was most tall when I was, and 5 arrows. The path was rough and covered in small stones. I took pains not to send them tumbling to the slope. I was also careful not to be seen by the cows, which alarmed easily and would not have warned the rest of the herd of their cries. I crawled behind the big rock and behind the young bull. I then got to my feet, fitted an arrow with a bow, although I suddenly remembered my father's warning that, because I was a woman, the bow would break. The sun was far from the west, but luckily my shadow fell away from the young bull. The distance between us and the shore was back and turned squarely toward me. I did not know where to place the first arrow, whether it was in his shoulders or in his head. The skin of the sea elephant is rough yet very thin, but beneath me are thick layers of fat, and enough, though this body is large, his head is small and makes poor target. While I stood there behind the rock and not knowing what to do, again aware of my father's warning that the bow in the hands of a woman would always break in the time of danger, the animal began to move toward the shore. At first, I thought by some chance he had heard me. I soon saw that he was only on his way toward the cows that belonged to the old bull sitting nearby. The sea elephants moved fast in spite of his size, waddling along the great flippers he uses his hands. The bull was nearing the water. I let the arrow go and went straight. At the last instant he changed direction, and though the bow did not break, the arrow passed harmlessly to one side. I had failed to notice the old bull was moving down the slope until I heard stones grating against each other. Quickly he overtook his rival, and in a single thrust of his shoulders overturned him. The young bull stood as high as the tall man, as twice that length. Yet in the force of the blow he rolled under the water and lay there stunned. The old bull bore down upon him, swinging his head and bellowing so loud it echoed against the cliffs. The herd of cows that were lying in the way, scratching their backs with their flippers, stopped to watch the battle. 2 of the cows were in the bull's path, and he waddled toward the rival. He went over them as they were small stones, using his tusk-like teeth to rip a long gash in the young bull's hide. The young bull raised himself as he turned, the small eyes shone fiercely red. When the old bull slashed at him again, he struck first and sunk his teeth into the other's neck. He did not let go. The 2 rolled over the waves, slashing water high in the air. The cows had scattered by now, and the other bull still sat quietly on the slope. 2 fighters paused, getting ready for the new attack. It was good a chance to send an arrow to the young bull, who lay on his back and his teeth, still grasping the other's neck, but I hoped that he would win the battle. I stood there and did not move. The old bull had many deep scars on his head and shoulders in battles he had fought before. Suddenly he lashed out his tail, trying to loose the hold on his neck, and struck the side of the rock. With his tail against the rock, he flung his body out in the water and thus broke away. He came quickly up the slope, and his great mouth opened. The young bull behind him. He came toward me and in haste got out of the way. In knowing whether he was bent on attacking me, I stepped back. In doing so, I tripped over a stone and fell to my knees. I felt a sharp pain in my leg, but was quickly up. By this time, the old bull had whirled around and turned upon his pursuer so fast the young bull was taken by surprise. Again, the young bull's flank was ripped deep, and again the force of the blow threw him backward into the water. The waves grew redder in his blood, but this time he rolled over and was waiting for the charge. He met the old bull with his shoulder. The sound of like rocks gnashing together. Once more, the young bull caught the other's throat, and together they disappeared beneath the wave. When they came up, they were only still locked together. The sun had gone down, and it was so dark I could no longer see clearly. My leg now begun to hurt. Since I had a long way to go, I left them. I could hear their bellowing as I went up the cliff for the long time afterwards. And that is the end of today's reading. Pretty short. It was only 16-minute episode for 16 pages, so I'm doing pretty good on time. But yeah, today we read chapters 11 to 13, as you can't see, but next time we will be reading chapters 14 to 16, so another 2-chapter episode, but that'll be fine because we're finally back on track, kind of, because next time we're going to be reading pages 82 to 10. 82 to 10? But Stonesy, that doesn't make sense. Da 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 boop. 82 to 100. That's right, 82 to 100. Because it would make no sense to read pages 82 to 10. You think I gotta read 72 pages in one episode? Because I kind of did, but also kind of didn't. But you would never know. Whoop-a-doop-a-doo. You know what you should know? It's time for... Fun fact about the Golden Retriever. It is the front cover of the Encyclopedia of Dog Breeds. It is the big dog in the front of the book. Now, what else is good about the Golden Retriever? Look at that face. He's so silly. He's a silly little dummy dog. If you turn this image upside down, which, you know, I would never do, of course, because I'm a mature individual, his face looks like the McDonald's symbol. But yes, I can make fun of the dog, or can I? Because I don't know the history of the dog, and you can't make fun of something unless you know the history. Now, the history of the Golden Retriever, one of the most famous breeds of retrievers. Even little kids know what it is because of a certain dog in Paw Patrol. The history of the Golden Retriever is one of the best documented and most fortuitous efforts to produce the breed resulted in the Golden Retriever. The man responsible for the breed was Lord Tweedmouth, funny name, who lived just north of the Scottish border along the Tweed River, which is interesting interest in retrieving dogs in the mid-1800s. A dog could push through heavy vegetation, brave colder, swim strongly, and retrieve gently on demand. Lord Tweedmouth bred Noose, a yellow wavy coated retriever, a descendant of the small Newfoundland and earlier Labrador breeds used by fishermen, to Belle, a Tweed Water Spaniel, a popular liver-colored retriever and tightly curled coat. They produced 4 puppies, which showed promise of the outstanding upland bird dogs. Subsequent Judaeus crosses were made with the other black retrievers, Tweed Spaniels, setters, and even a bloodhound. The breed was first considered to be a yellow variety of flat-coated retrievers, but was recognized as a separate breed of yellow or golden retriever in 1912. Of these few dogs had come to America by the way of Lord Tweedmouth's sons by 1900, but the AKC did not register them as a separate breed until the 1927s. The breed was valued for hunting ability, so aptly produced by the careful blending of foundation stock. It only later became popular as a pet, show dog, and obedience competitor. After it made the transition, however, it rise to height of popularity was meteoric, and it remains one of the most popular of all breeds in America. That's right. It is one of the most popular popular breeds of retriever. You want to talk about retrievers? You say, oh, is that a golden retriever? When I was a kid, I mistook every retriever as a golden retriever. But now, I'm an adult, and I can't mistake that or else I will be made fun of. Speaking of having bad temperament, what is the temperament of the Golden Retriever? You know, you just learned the lesson how
Sir Lord Tweedmouth of the Tweed River has now breeded the dogs, and his sons went out and spread the breed.
He also made the first ever flat-coated retriever, which if you go into the last episode, you would find we talked about. Now, the Golden Retriever, the beautiful dog. What's their temperament? You want to own this, don't you? So the temperament of the Golden Retriever is, well, simply put, it's everyone's friend. The Golden Retriever is known as devoted and obedient nature as a family companion. It is apt for sporting retriever as well and yearns for the days in the field. That's not good wording. Ignoring its active nature and powerful physique can lead to behavior problems. It needs daily physical and mental exercise. Poorly bred Goldens may be overly exuberant and boisterous, but the correct Golden is eager to please and enjoys learning. Well-trained and exercised Goldens are calm and manly at home and enthusiastic when invited to play. The Golden achievements and competitive obedience are remarkable. It especially enjoys games that involve retrieving and loves to carry items in its mouth. So, if you have the golden retriever, it's a great dog. If you have a golden pug retriever, you might have a little problem. Now, you know the history. You know it's man's best friend, dog's best friend, others' best friend. Now, what are the upkeep? I want this dog. My kid is listening to this, wants this dog. But how do I keep it up? The upkeep of the Golden Retriever, it needs daily exercise and human interaction. Challenging obedience lessons, active games, or retrieving sessions are all good ways for the exercise of the Golden's mind and body. Although it is capable of living outdoors, it is such a social dog that is best when it shares its life and its family. The coat does not tend to mat, but needs twice weekly brushing. Okay, so you got to brush this dog's coat twice a week. That's kind of, that's up there when it comes to grooming capabilities. I mean, the flat-coated retriever only needed it once a week. So the more we go on with the retrievers, maybe the more you need to brush them and turn them into your perfect little Ken doll. But that's just me saying it. Now, the worst part, I hate this part. You could skip this part if you want, but as a pet owner, you shouldn't. What is the health requirements of these animals? Now, your major concerns when it comes to the Golden Retriever is CHD, skin problems, allergies, hot spots, ear infections when it comes to skin problems, hemangiosarcoma, and lymphoma. Now, that basically means blindness, any problems with the jaw, a lot of different skin issues. I mean, this dog is very bright, which means it attracts the sun more. Fun fact, the more bright you are, the more you attract, the less you attract the sun. That's why adults hate the color black on cars, because that will turn your car into a little Dutch oven. And as much as you want to be a Hot Pocket when you grow up, or you want to be 99 pounds, eat a pound of Hot Pockets, and then be 1% Hot Pocket, it doesn't feel good. I've been in a burning car. My personal car is black. Well, it's blue, but I had another car that was black, and that car burned. It sucked. Now, the minor concerns are SAS, elbow dysplasia, eye disorders, entropin or CPRA, seizures, hyperthyroidism, mast cell tumors. Oh no, tumors. Although it's a minor concern, tumors are huge in the brain. Now, basically that means your dog isn't going to be thinking very well. There's a lot of health concerns with the Golden Retriever that I didn't even know. That's really sad to learn. But for this type of dog, it's, you know, you got to keep an eye on these things. They might have medical problems. That little face right there might have a problem, but it's hard to tell. Now, it is occasionally seen with osteocoma, and the suggested tests are the hip, elbow, eye, cardiac, and thyroid. So basically, the head itself, the legs itself. This dog needs a lot of different testing, people. That's going to be kind of expensive, but for the perfect family dog, what are you going to do? This is a true question, because the lifespan of this dog is 10 to 13 years. I think this is one of the lowest of the breeds so far. With the flat-coated retriever having a lifespan of, I believe, 14 years, and the lifespan of the curly-coated retriever, oh, nope, it's 12. Okay, well, this is actually a pretty long dog breed then. I don't know what I'm talking about, and I'm the one reading it, so you know it's bad. Now, the form and function of these animals. I don't have a family, Stonesy. I don't have any of this. So what can I do? What does this dog do best? The form and function of the Golden Retriever is it's an athletic, strong dog capable of carrying heavy game over land and water. Game meaning ducks, birds, a cow. I don't know why you'd be hunting cow in a swamp. Maybe you are. That's beside the point. For this, it needs a broad, powerful head with a strong neck and well-developed fore and hindquarters. It is slightly longer than a tail, and its gait is smooth, powerful, and ground covering. The water speculent coat is dense, with an outer coat straight or wavy. This dog jumps into water, jumps out the water, drenched. He is a sponge. His coat makes him go, and that means That's a big old sponge. What you do is when your dad is home and you want to do a little prank on him and he's in a good mood, you cover this dog with the hose water, you tell him sick him and tell him to go give dad a hug. You'll run in and then boo-doo-doo-doo, and the entire room is wet and you did a funny prank. Now don't actually do this because Stonesy will be blamed. And I believe you can get sued for that. But it's a funny little prank you want to do on your kids. Just saying, parents. Now, although you have to clean up the mess. Now, the final thing we got to go over with the Golden Retriever is At a Glance, the scoreboard that was made by the beautiful people of the Encyclopedia of Dog Breeds, D. Carolyn Coley, Ph.D., which finds that, before I say, 5 stars means, mwah, best. It's the best thing, or, for certain situations, only 3, it's the worst. 4 means it's pretty good. It's better than average. Or it could be worse than average, depending on the situation. 3, it's average. You know, that's like that doggy over there. That's like that doggy over there. It's average. Who cares? Now, 2 means, okay, it's worse than average. We kind of maybe have a problem, but it's nothing to worry about. Or it could be pretty good, depending the situation. 1 is, oh my goodness, this is a problem. We need to think about this real quick. And, this is pretty bad. Now, I'll explain these in more detail later on, but we'll continue. So the energy level and exercise requirements of the Golden Retriever is at a 3. So, you know, it has average energy, average exercise requirements, you know? And this is the first time in book history where a bunch of things are 5. I think this is the most so far. Playfulness, affection level, friendliness towards dogs, friendliness towards other pets, friendliness towards trainers, and ease of training are at a 5, people. This dog, oh my gosh, you want me to tell you about this dog? Super playful, loves you to the very end, loves other dogs, loves other pets, loves your neighbor, loves your brother, loves strangers, and is easy as all get out to train. This doggy is probably why this dog is one of the most famous and one of the most known breeds in America. Now, the watchdog capability is at a 3, which is higher than the average retriever. Usually a watchdog's only at a 1. But this dog's at a 3, so it could actually pack a punch and pack a bite, which is average. Their protection ability, however, is a 2. So they might run over, they might bite, but that bite might not do as much damage as you're thinking. And the cold and heat tolerance, surprisingly, are both at a 3, which surprises me. Oh, and for the final thing, the grooming requirements are at a 3. This is pretty high for a retriever. Usually they're about 2 or 1, but considering it's every other week, or twice a week, it gets there. So basically, on every Friday and every, I would say every Friday and every Wednesday and every Sunday, you should probably go up to your dog, brush. He's gonna be silly, he's gonna be playful, he's gonna take the brush from your hands and run. That's okay. That's a Golden Retriever. That's how they do. They're very playful. Now, the weight of the male dogs are 65 to 75 pounds, with the female dogs being at 55 to 65 pounds healthy. If you see your dog higher or lower than this, consult a doctor. Your pet doctor, nearby veterinarian, or whoever you think. Or you can pick up the dog and be like, I'ma guess your weight. And then if you can guess the weight properly, maybe you'll get a stuffed toy or maybe some tickets so you can go over there and buy yourself some Smarties, or maybe if you save up enough dog weighty tickets, you can get yourself an Xbox 360 that's been used by the employees, but they won't tell you that part. Who knows? Now, the height of these dogs, for a good height, if they're any taller or any shorter, maybe get it checked out. It might cause some problems later on. Is for the men, 23 to 24 inches, and for females, 21.5 to 22.5 inches. So exact for the girls. But hey, we love you, ladies. So, that is it for the day. Oh my goodness, the next dog we're having is super popular too. It's the thing you're going to learn in the next episode. So, I hope you guys have a fantastic wonderful day. Be polite, be efficient, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. And I'll see you guys next time.